In the name of God, I am Kaman Kashi. I'm here with the first part of the International Transportation Training. I've dedicated the first part of the training to the definition of transportation and international transportation companies. Given the breadth of the topic, I've divided it into two parts, A and B. In Part A, I will define transportation itself for you, as well as international transportation and the different types of companies involved. At the end, I will define the carrier company and explain its responsibilities. And in Part B, I will explain the different types of forwarding companies and describe their responsibilities. I will be with you for the first section of Part A. Well, in order to get familiar with international transportation, we first need to understand what transportation itself is and see what transportation actually means. Transportation, which is also referred to as tarabari or simply transport, means the movement or transfer of people, animals, or goods from one place to another. So any kind of movement or transfer we do is called transportation. This transportation can be by land, rail, sea, or air. If this movement happens within a country, it's called domestic transportation. And if it takes place from one country to another, it's called international transportation, such as export, import, transit, and various types of transport methods that we will get to know in the future. Well, in this slide, as you can see, the definition of international transportation and international transportation of goods is provided. As we explained in the previous slide, international transportation of goods actually means the transfer of passengers or goods between two countries, and these two countries may share a common land, sea, or air border. However, what we actually mean in this lesson and what we want to focus on more is international transportation of goods, which specifically refers to the movement of goods from within one country to another country in compliance with the laws and regulations governing those countries. To do this, we absolutely need to know what the regulations are for that product in the destination country when we want to transport goods from one country to another. Are we allowed to do this? Does that country accept this product within its borders or not? For example, it might not be possible to export certain goods to some countries, or our own country may not allow the import of certain products. Therefore, we need to be familiar with these rules and regulations and carry out transportation with that knowledge. Now, what exactly are international transport companies? International transport companies are essentially legal entities that are specifically established for the express purpose of carrying out various international transportation activities such as shipping goods or moving people across borders. These companies can be forwarding companies, carrier companies, or combined forwarder carrier companies, which are actually established with knowledge of the laws and regulations of countries and certain issues related to international transportation. They are founded in order to facilitate the process of international goods transportation. Some of them are solely forwarders, some are solely carriers, and some are dual purpose. We will become more familiar with these concepts in the following slides. What is a carrier company? A carrier company is also referred to as a transport operator. These companies are responsible for the physical transportation of goods. Carrier companies are typically those entities that own their very own means of transportation. For example, this includes major airlines, extensive railway companies, prominent shipping lines, or even companies that possess their own fleet of trucks or numerous trailers. Now, we call these companies carrier companies. In fact, by owning their own means of transportation, they transport goods themselves and do this directly without intermediaries. In the next slide, we will get fully acquainted with their responsibilities. Among the duties of a carrier company are entering into a transport contract with the forwarder or the owner of the goods, and issuing the waybill. Now, in this definition, there are two terms that might be unfamiliar to you, and we will get to know them later. One is the term forwarder, and the other is waybill, both of which we will cover in the upcoming slides. But we should know that a carrier is a company that can enter into a contract either directly with the owner of the goods or with the forwarder. and the document it issues is the waybill. The second point is providing a suitable means of transport for the shipment, considering the deadline specified in the contract. What does that mean? It means, for example, when I, as a cargo owner or a forwarding company, ask the carrier to provide a vehicle for sending my goods to Turkey, they must provide the best and fastest means of transport available for my shipment, so that there is no delay in sending my cargo. The third point is preparing the necessary documents and paperwork required for the journey, such as the TR carnet, carnet de passage, douze bloc, visa, insurance policy, certificate of acceptance, and so on. All the documents mentioned in this item are those required for transporting a vehicle abroad. These are considered carrier documents that must be provided to the driver so they can leave the country for another destination. In future lessons, we will get to know each of these in detail. The fourth item is submitting the necessary guarantees to the relevant organizations in order to obtain the required documents and certificates. Again, this means that a set of essential guarantees or guarantee letters must be provided to certain organizations so that they can issue and hand over the documents and certificates needed for the driver's departure. The next item is receiving the goods from the forwarder or the owner of the goods and supervising the loading process to ensure that the contents of the shipping documents match the cargo. In fact, after the carrier company receives the goods from the owner or the forwarder, it must check and ensure that the goods it has received match the documents it has issued. For example, it should verify that the quantity of goods received matches the documents, or that there is no discrepancy in terms of weight between them. The next point is submitting the documents of the loaded goods to customs authorities from the origin to the destination, and ensuring the seals remain intact. At every customs checkpoint along the route, the carrier must present the goods documents and make every effort to keep the goods in good condition during transit. Additionally, they should ensure that the seals on the goods remain intact throughout the journey. The next point is adhering to the agreed route and transit time for transporting the goods according to the transport contract. The carrier must make every effort to deliver the goods to the destination within the time frame agreed upon with the owner of the goods or the forwarder. The next item is unloading or supervising the unloading and counting of the goods, and signing documents regarding shortages, overages, or damages. In fact, we need to know that the carrier is not personally responsible for loading and unloading the goods, but must supervise this process to ensure that the documents match what was received. If there is any shortage, overage, damage to the goods, or any weakness or defect in the packaging, it must be recorded in the documents to avoid problems at the destination. And the final item is delivering the goods to the recipient at locations designated and authorized by customs authorities. The carrier must deliver the goods to the recipient at the destination and in places permitted by customs authorities in a safe and proper condition. These are among the valuable duties that the carrier is responsible for and must carry out precisely and thoroughly. Well, dear friends, thank you for your attention. Our lesson for today has come to an end. I hope it was useful and interesting for you.